Let me ask you something. How do you feel when you surf your best? Excited, relaxed, comfortable, focused? Well, today, I'm very fortunate to have just won the first round of the state championships, which does bring me one step closer for snatching a wild card to the first World Tour event at Bells Beach this year. And on the back of this, I did want to provide something extremely valuable for you today that differs a little bit from the content you would usually see. There's so many how-tos on YouTube. But real skill development isn't just about simply doing A, B, and C. It's about learning the processes and the frameworks that allow you to excel in your surfing. I guess through 15 years of surfing and enhancing my competitive skills, I have come across and learnt some really valuable things that have become the nuts and bolts of my surfing progression and development. And I do think it's unfortunate that this sort of stuff only often gets talked about to the people who are looking to excel in their competitive game. So today I did want to level the playing field a little bit and give this information to you guys so you can use this to enhance your surfing earlier rather than later, something I definitely wish I had at the start as well. If you are new here, my name is Considine, and I'm here to educate and share my learnings and experiences like this one today with you all. If you are new here and you find it useful, feel free to subscribe. And if you do know anyone that this might be useful for as well, feel free to share it with them. But let's get into it. So for the edit today, what we're going to be doing is I'll be showing a bunch of footage from the state championships to help provide a little bit of context to what I'm speaking about today. And the edit will be divided into three components. These being firstly, surf preparation and why you might not be prepared for proper surfing development. The second being the concept and the important concept of feeling versus reacting and how this can change our surfing dramatically. And then the last one, how to cure overthinking and the importance this plays in our surfing development as well. So let's get into that now. So the first thing that we are going to touch on today is how we prepare for our surfs and therefore how this affects our surfing development. Now, I often like to think about this in the context of surfing versus other sports. With a lot of other sports, there's a very considered and a very intentional approach to going out and training. So you might have an intention of training, maybe your drop knee turn, maybe your cut back, maybe your nose riding, your cross stepping. The same for some other sports where you might try and refine and really work on a single focus. What we typically do with our surfing though, is we go out the same way we would as if we're just going out for a fun surf. But when it comes down for training and the intention of getting better and improving, I do think we need to make this distinction and we need to try and navigate away from simply just going out and following the same behaviors when we're going out for a free surf versus when we're going out to truly work on something. So in terms of what this looks like, I like to draw this back to just from my own experiences, but maybe something you can relate to as well, that is going to the gym. Quite typically, there's a bit of a pre-gym routine that you might have. You might be listening to some music, you might even go with a buddy or a friend to try and pump yourself up. And we know the difference between if we go to the gym and we're feeling in the zone and locked in, or if we're feeling a little bit flat. And I like to think the exact same thing is going to happen for our surfing development if we don't go in with the right mindset. So how do we prepare for that and what can we do to optimize this for ourselves? I've actually learnt this over many years of competing and finding that there's so many confounding factors that lead to me not surfing optimally and not surfing as well as I could have. Things like the stress and anxiety and all of these things that pop up with contests because of the time restraints, the other competitors in the water, maybe the waves aren't going your way or the conditions aren't very good. So there's a lot of variables that come into this. And this is very similar to our surfing development as well, because we are putting ourselves potentially in stressful and new circumstances where we really do have to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. Now, the strategies that I've developed, I've kind of refined really over the past 2 to 3 years, and I really feel like I'm finally at a place where it is working for me really well, and I can switch myself and get myself in tune as I need to. It's definitely not bulletproof and it will change from person to person, but I think you'll find this useful. To properly prepare for your surfing development, it all comes back to the first question that I asked you at the start of this video. How do you feel when you're surfing your best? For me, it's kind of like I'm surfing loose, casual, and almost like I'm showing off. For others, it can be when you're feeling controlled, or some people have even said angry, so they let their aggression out in the water. So your absolute first task for today's video is to truly understand what mood gets you in the best frame of mind to perform and surf at your best. This is really, really important because it forms the foundation for a lot of what we're going to speak about. And we can then curate our conditions prior to going surfing to build yourself into this mood and this state of mind so that you will perform at your best. And this is something that I rarely see happening for people. This is quite advanced and quite complex because there's so many things that can influence our mood and our state of mind. But once we get really good at this, it can allow us to thrive and compete and then also develop our surfing skills in the best way possible. If you're going to put yourself in some new surf conditions, learn a new maneuver, it's all going to be helpful for that. Now, for this, there's 4 little tips that can help to try and curate your pre-surf ritual so that you can get yourself into the frame of mind that you want. And again, it all feeds back to the mood that you're trying to look for. The first is music. If you're looking for something that allows you to change your emotion and have a certain feeling when you go in the water, I find this is really, really useful. So pick a song or pick a genre of music that you typically like to listen to before you go out in the water that really gets you feeling the way that you need to. The next part of this is actually visualizing what it will feel like. So for me in surfing contests, it's looking at myself and visualizing myself surfing and feeling really comfortable, flowing really well from maneuver to maneuver on the wave and just feeling loose and confident. For you, it might be what it looks like to do the perfect drop knee or to cross step confidently in the right part of the wave. The third aspect here is to really understand the limitations and the things that are causing your stress and anxiety. We do need to often deceive ourselves even to get to the point where we're feeling really, really confident and able to get out in the water and do what we need to do. I really like this quote from tennis player Novak Djokovic, who said, "You need to convince yourself that you're the best player on the court, even if that's not the case." The main idea here is letting go of what doesn't serve you and then amplifying what does. So if you have doubts about your ability or your confidence in doing something, don't worry about that or downplay that, and then amplify the things that are going to allow you to get into the frame of mind, like visualizing the maneuver that you're going to be doing successfully to allow you to get to that mind state. The last thing here is to even have a little bit of a mantra, a sentence that you say to yourself over and over again that really provides you with a lot of certainty and confidence. As I say with plenty of things on the channel, uncertainty and hesitation is often what leads us to being unsuccessful with maneuvers, contests, all of this sort of stuff. So having a mantra that can reaffirm that is really, really important. So the next concept that I wanted to speak about is feeling versus reacting. So when we're learning something for the first time, we are reacting or we're planning to have something done in a specific way on the wave. But when we watch our favorite surfers surf and how they move across the wave, they are doing this by feel. And you can see this by the way that they're able to mold themselves and the board into the wave effortlessly and have that smooth transition from maneuver to maneuver as well. And the reason this is really important is because it does actually impact our timing on the wave, which, although subtle, can have a dramatic effect of how we position and maneuver ourselves across the wave. And this is something that I was in the dark with for a long time as well. Now, this really came to my attention not actually too long ago, which is why I think it's such an important thing and such an advantage if you can grasp onto this now. What I was finding when I was surfing in contests and then even preparing for my heats is that I was trying to analyze each part of the wave and the maneuver that I should complete and exactly where that should be to a T. I actually found that this was a little bit counter what we need to be doing because it did actually create a bit of a delay in the sense of my timing and positioning on the wave, which actually does have a dramatic impact on how we're surfing the wave. What I did find I was doing though is for practicing in my heats for surfing contests or even when I was surfing in heats, I would actually be analyzing the wave to a T to try and figure out the perfect part of the wave to do the perfect maneuver. But I actually found this was quite detrimental when we try to be too prescriptive on the wave. And I guess this is a way of saying objectively that we're lacking a lot of flow on the wave, which is such an important component of our surfing, both competitively and if we're just gonna make things work on the wave. And so I guess I want you guys to be aware of this as the end goal, not to think about I've got to do this maneuver in this spot and position it like this, but for it to become almost intuitive, because this is how we generate a lot of flow in our surfing. This is how we're going to be able to mold ourselves to the wave the best, because we don't have to wait for ourselves to react. And feeling the wave and feeling what is happening underneath your feet intuitively is a much faster way to respond on the wave, and it mitigates a lot of these problems that we'll have otherwise. So let me explain exactly what we need to be doing to replace reacting with feeling. First things first, we have to practice, and we have to practice lots. As a guitarist, I do like to use an example of guitar or any instrument. But when we're first learning a song, what we need to be doing is we really need to be methodically thinking about finger positioning, the tempo, and we do have to be analyzing it. It does at the start sound a little bit robotic, and this is where it's lacking flow because we are so analysis heavy on it. But as you continue repetitions and as you practice more and more, it will start to flow a lot more. And what you'll be able to notice is you won't have to focus so much on the exact finger positioning. You won't have to focus so much on what you're doing with the picking hand. You'll even be able to get to the point where you can feel the song and you can actually look away from the guitar and do it without looking. So there's a lot of feel as you become more experienced and much less reaction. Now, the same thing happens with our confidence in surfing. So as we practice something more and more, it will have a more natural feel and approach. And this is what we really want to try and work towards and harness. So, long way of saying, make sure you're getting plenty of practice in. And the second part to this is literally just having the awareness that this is what we're working towards. For so many years, I was thinking that I needed to be really self-critical and analyzing the wave to pick it apart. But what we really want to try and swerve towards isn't the analytical approach, but it's the feeling of the wave. So if ever you're thinking that you want to become really, really competent at something, it actually steers more towards the direction of feeling and thinking about it less, rather than being self-critical and really thinking quite objectively on the wave. I think that does lead to more trouble than good down the track. And this is also something I feel we can get a little bit stuck in the weeds with our YouTube tutorials as well, where we think so much about form and position that we kind of forget about what we're speaking about here, about the importance of feel and the importance of intuition. So I think it's just really important to keep that front of mind for your surfing development as well. And as I said, I think it's something that a lot of people aren't focusing on. And this has to be probably one of the most relatable ones, but that's the problem of overthinking. We can unfortunately overthink things and really get into these loops, such as thinking about, are you in the right position on the board? How about the right position on the wave? How about the right position on the lineup? So this is something that's certainly been a bit of a battle for me, a bit of a chronic overthinker, but it's been something that I've been working on over the past few years. And unfortunately, with our minds when we go surfing, we're really good at considering all of the possible options and really emphasizing those negative ones. Now, some of the typical advice that you might have heard on this previously, and something that I've certainly heard a lot of myself, is that don't worry about it, just be confident. But I did hear a really good quote recently, which I thought led me down a really good track of how to think about this a little bit better so that it's a bit more useful and you can actually utilize it yourself. But it's actually that competence precedes confidence. And so this is by a psychologist, and the main argument was that confidence is a byproduct of something, and we can't get our confidence without having done some sort of work to establish that confidence. Now, this could be a little bit demoralizing, I suppose, if we were thinking about, oh no, I can't just be confident. But I think that understanding this really empowers us to take control over this situation as well, so that we can become confident by integrating a few steps. The first thing that we do need to be doing to attack this, if we want to be getting better at a certain maneuver, if we want to be feeling more comfortable in certain conditions, or if we want to be confident that we can beat a high caliber competitor or surfer in a competition, you've got to get out in the water and get your repetitions and practice in before you get confident. And the empowering part of this is, it's okay if we don't feel confident at the start of this. This is a normal human response. It's certainly something that I've felt, and I can guarantee 95% of the people watching this video as well right now have felt the same thing, where you're not confident in a certain type of situation. And I think it's really good to change our thinking about this to thinking this isn't a good thing, to understanding that we're actually in a process of learning and development, and we're actually getting ourselves to move beyond where we currently are, which is a really, really positive thing. You can think of these uncomfortable situations as layering the foundations for building your confidence. So there are a few things that I really would like you to take away from this concept itself. The first is that it's okay not to feel confident straight away, and that actually pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, doing this more and more, will lead to building your competence, which leads to the second thing, that competence is something that can be achieved without confidence. if you are looking through these YouTube tutorials and you're looking to improve your surfing, if you can really hone in on your skill and your craft and know that you're completing a maneuver a certain way, and you've been really good with your self-analysis of being able to pick out what's gone right, what's gone wrong, you can actually teach yourself to surf in a really good way and teach yourself to be super competent without that confidence. What we can then see is this cycle where your competence, so your ability to execute a task effectively, actually feeds into the confidence over time, so that then you won't need to think about it as much and you feel more comfortable and confident in a whole variety of situations that you weren't before. We can then accumulate these little wins and create this catalog of memories and experiences that we can then draw upon to reinstate that confidence when we need it. So if you haven't competed for a while, like myself at the moment, and you're feeling a little bit on edge and apprehensive as to whether you can beat some certain people or whether you'll do well, you can remember from the previous year or the previous past couple of years those successes and the wins to reinstate that belief that yes, you can do it, build that confidence so that then hopefully you can perform better as well. So I hope that's been really helpful for you guys today. I do think it's really useful, and that this stuff can be just as useful as the tutorials and the how-tos, because this more subjective elements of our surfing are a really important base to build our frameworks and to be able to develop ourselves as surfers. I think it's hitting dusk here at the moment. I've just landed in Noosa, so I will wrap up the video here. Once again, for everyone who's supported the Glide Surf Collective, I really, really appreciate it. The orders have continued to come on through, so I'm really, really appreciative of that. And because we are in Noosa, this is my view at the moment. And I will be having something to do with Noosa, the contest, and the events that have gone on around here over the next week or so on the channel. So stay tuned for that. But we'll catch you on the next one. Pew.
2.5 minutes remaining, 2.5 minutes.